And good afternoon from the lobby of Brunner Dodge on the corner of the South Loop and US 281 in Stephenville. Make sure you stop by. We've got food courtesy of Cotton Patch Cafe, refreshments, and of course Tarleton Athletic and Brunner Motor giveaways later in the half hour. Lunch with Lonn is sponsored by Brunner Motors, so we want to thank them for their support in making this show possible. Coach, good afternoon. It's hard to believe the season is already behind us.
It's behind us, Casey. It's you actually start in some individuals in August, and then you get into practice October 15th. You see March Madness for the first time, and all of a sudden you're still playing. You know, we were coming back from Denver, and it's almost half the month of March is over, and that tells you that when you're playing that late in the year, you've had a good season.
Did you get a day off at all after the season ended? I'm guessing with you, no.
Came right back to work. You know, I told somebody to go from the frying pan into the fire because we got to do a lot of recruiting right now.
Let's get the show kicked off by breaking down the final game of the season, which was a 76-65 loss to Metro State in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. Coach, we talked a lot about last week about how tough of a matchup this is. You face the #3 team in the nation on their home court, a team that went to the Elite Eight last year and returned 4 starters. Despite all of that, though, did you think your team had a chance to win this game?
No, we really feel like we had a great game plan, and we feel like we had an opportunity to play, you know, one of the best teams in the nation right there. But we felt like we had a young team that's maybe turning into a team like that, and you know, we'll feel the same way next year when we bring, you know, 4 starters back. But you know, I thought we played, Casey, I thought we really opened up the game with a lot of confidence. I thought we missed a couple of easy shots early in the game that could put us up 2-4-0. I think Chuck missed a layup, and then Coleman went down there and, you know, could have got fouled and had a chance to go up in the game right away and kind of relax. And instead, after that, they hit a couple of shots. I think we got down 7-2. It kind of worked our way back in it. You know, I thought a crucial time was when we had worked ourselves back in at 21-19. And I don't know what was left in the first half, 10 minutes or so. And then I thought the most crucial part of the game was that 10-minute stretch when they went up 34-23 at halftime, because we were at 21-19, right where we wanted to be on the road. Because the second half we played them even, made some adjustments in the locker room, went 40-42, 42 or something like that in the second half. I thought that the game was determined in that 10-minute stretch.
Now the Roadrunners had a 20-point lead with 10 minutes left in the game, and a lot of folks in the gym at that point are saying your team's done. You're down by 20 against a great team like Metro State, but just like your guys did all season long, Coach, they never gave up.
Yeah, they fought back, Casey. In fact, you know, with about 1:30, we were down 8, and we had 2 wide open shots at 3. I think Church had 2 wide open that I thought would cut it to 5, and if he had, I was going to hit with a timeout right there, because I thought at that time our press might be bothering them just a little bit. And you know, when you get down to 5, it's anybody's ball game with 1.5 minutes to go or 1:20 to go, and we were right at that point, and if we'd hit that shot.
Now, you talked about that full court press, Coach. You kind of gave them a taste of their own medicine, because when you play Metro State, you hear about that intense full court press they usually put on for 40 minutes in a game, Coach, and it looked like you handled that very well. You only turned over the ball 11 times.
Yeah, and only once against the press. I mean, that's what was, you know, we had really prepared for that press. Coach Chris did a great job. We had really prepared for that press. And we turned the ball over, and that was in the first part of the game, first couple of minutes of the game, and then after that, we handled the press pretty well all night. 11 turnovers on the road against that team. We couldn't have asked for a better game plan as far as not turning the ball over.
Yeah, they create 18 turnovers per game,
right,
which is top 10 in the nation, and at home, it's probably in the 20s.
Probably is, and so, you know, I was very pleased with that. I thought our kids did a great job of taking care of the basketball and you know, and handling the press. Never did bother us very much. You know, we made a couple of adjustments by putting Chuck handling the ball in the press, and you saw that for the first time. And something that we'll probably look at even more next year. And then you get to play somebody in another area of the country that has just a little bit different philosophical thinking on the game of basketball. I think that's good for us to do that. I told somebody the other day, I'd love to bring Metro here right now next week. I'll play him on Wisdom Jim's home floor.
Coach, looking at the stat sheet, you're 6 of 26 from the arc, 23%.
Yeah.
John Cathy Macklin got in foul trouble early. He never established that inside game, and when that happens, don't you have to hit those perimeter shots?
Well, I think so. You know, John Cathy Macklin, you know, and John had been playing very well up to that game. And in his defense, I never really allow us to tell people, you know, if their things are wrong. John was sick that night. There's no doubt about it. People didn't know that. We tried to pump some antibiotics into him that morning, you know, because we knew he didn't feel well. And then I didn't realize when you have an upper respiratory infection, how much it really affects you in the altitude area. John just couldn't breathe. I mean, John is a great athlete and has great stamina. When he's bending over and just trying to get breath in him, then I realized at that time how much that does affect you, and I realized at that time how sick he really was.
As good as Metro State's roster is, Coach, there was no doubt in this game that the best player was number 4 for the Tarleton Texans, right?
There's no doubt in my mind, Casey, that the best player on that whole floor that night was Chuck Gott. I mean, their whole defensive concept was to take Chuck out of the game, and I don't know how much, I mean, they tried to take him out of the game. He scored 29 points.
Career high.
So if that's taking him out of the game, scoring 29 points, then I don't understand that. But I mean, he really handled it. I think early in the game, he was double teamed a lot. He was somewhat a little bit frustrated at that moment until he got himself under control and understand that people are going to double team you, Chuck. You're one of the premier guards in this country. And I think once he settled into the game, then you could see he really got into the game, and I think he's the one to let that come back and and got some great shots. We had some great shots. I mean, we had some wide open shots that we didn't hit. You're not going to see Church go. Well, what was he from the 3-point line?
3 of 13.
Yeah, he's going to go 6 of 13 from there. He's a great shooter, and he has some great looks. And it's just one of those games, Casey, where I think experience has a little bit to do with it. We didn't have a very experienced team. We had never been on the road that far like that. We were playing a very experienced team, and we saw some things that we have to get better at too. And, you and I have talked about that in some of our areas of our team, and I think it was a great experience. I think it was great to play a team of that caliber. They beat Midwestern the next night. They beat St. They're going to the Elite Eight, and we're not far off. I think people will understand that we are not far off from being an elite team ourselves next year.
You talk about experience. Does this show to your 14 players that are returning next year how important every game is in the regular season? Because, Coach, you don't want to be the number 8 seed in this tournament.
No, I mean, those are things that this team they're going to learn. There's no doubt about it. We lost a lot of close games this year. Still won 20, and where could we have been? 25-5? I don't know. And so, we've learned some of that, and those are the things that we have to get better with in the off season. And I think that our team grew as the year went on. I can't remember what we had won out of our last 13 or 16.
Yes, 12 out of your last 16 you won.
Yeah, I mean, and so, that shows how this team had grown.
And you said it earlier, Metro went on to win the South Central Regional Championship.
Yes.
A lot of folks think Metro State could win the national championship. Does that show you how close this team is? You might be 1 or 2 pieces away from being a top 25 team.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think that, I don't want to say this very often, but I think we could be 1 or 2 pieces away from being a top 10. I really do, Casey. I mean, we have pieces in place right now that are special players. We have to go get about a couple of pieces to add to them, plus everybody we have coming back. I think that our projection for next year is always going to be high. We want to compete for the national championship. We had a young team this year, but I think realistically, if things go well and people take care of their business off the floor this year and take care of their academic responsibilities, work hard during this summer, this could be a real special year.
We'll take our first break, and when Coach and I return, we'll recap an exciting season for the Tarleton Texans. You're listening to the Tarleton Athletic KSTV Radio Network. Welcome back to Lunch with Lonn, live from the recently renovated lobby of Bruner Dodge in Stephenville. We're going to be here for another 20 minutes, so stop by. Plenty of food courtesy of Cotton Patch Cafe and giveaways later in the half hour. Coach, let's look back at another successful season for your basketball program. Obviously, we don't have time to talk about every game, but we'll highlight a few of the games on the schedule this season. You start the season, Coach, with only 5 returning lettermen and 2 returning starters from last year's squad that went 27-6 overall. We knew there would be some early growing pains, and we saw that in the first game of the season as you lost 73-60 to Southwestern Assembly of God.
It was a very young team. There's no doubt about it. Casey, you and I have talked, and you look at some of our losses, they're just unbelievable losses. Just like the first game of the season, we had a 17-point lead in that game, and that got away from us. And we looked on the road at Angelo, and we looked at Angelo and Eastern, and you look in Incarnate. You keep going down. We had leads in every one of those games with 5 minutes to go in the game, and even below that. And so it showed some of the youth that we had, but it also showed that where we were at that moment and where we finished this year, the tremendous improvement that this team made and the tremendous strides that, going to the Lone Star Conference as the 3rd seed and go through, and pretty much the first 2 rounds dominate the Lone Star Conference tournament. I mean, we're up double figures, 20 on Eastern. We beat West Texas by 18, and Rick is a great coach, great team. We just played we were playing well at that time, and then Midwestern and Tarleton had their classic championship game again, and in classic fashion where we beat them 53-50. So we really took a lot to the off season this year.
And going back to that first game of the season, the loss doesn't look that bad considering Southwestern was in the national championship game the other night.
Yeah, people didn't realize. They look at that name, they think, how good are they? And then they played for the NAI Division I National Championship on CBS television the other night, and they're playing for. Then they get beat in the national championship game, but. We knew right then that I knew how good they were, and you and I were talking about that, and I don't think people grasped the type of team that they were, and they go all the way to almost win the national championship.
After that season opener loss, you win 4 consecutive games. You go to Angelo State. We won't talk about that game. You referenced it. You had a big lead in that game. Then, as your team did all season long, they responded well from that Angelo State loss. You win 4 consecutive games. And the game I want to talk about was the opener, the Lone Star Conference opener against Abilene Christian on December 8th. Coach, you win 64-50. And the storyline in that game, you hold Abilene Christian to a school record 2 field goals in the first half.
You know, and I think that's when our defense started to take notice. You know, we were getting better defensively, Casey. I think early in the year we still were trying to buy into what we do defensively. And I thought that as we came home from the Abilene game, we came home and played Abilene, and a very explosive Abilene Christian team. Let's just say that. I thought they had some of the best talent in the conference.
A lot of coaches said they had the best starting 5.
They had a great postman and some great guards.
And then after that win over Abilene Christian, Coach, you played 2 very tough teams out of the Great American Conference in Henderson State and Ouachita Baptist. And looking at what those 2 programs did this season, those were 2 impressive wins.
Well, Ouachita Baptist won the GAC conference, or the GAC tournament up in Bartlesville, Oklahoma this year. So 2 outstanding teams and 2 very good, solid wins for us.
Then you'd hit the low point of the season. You lost 4 consecutive conference games, something Tarleton fans haven't seen in a long time. And Coach, you told me after the loss on January 9th to Cameron that things were going to get worse before they got better, and you were right.
And they got worse or they got better. You know, sometimes when you've done this for 30 years, you kind of know where your team is at, Casey, and you know there needs to be. You have to make a strategic decision on some things, and I had not made that strategic decision yet. I still was working through that, and you know, we lost the Cameron game at home, which is a tremendous loss. We did not want to lose this. Then you're looking at Midwestern and Eastern on the road, and you know, I just knew that there's some decisions had to be made. Sure. And we came home after the Midwestern loss, and I decided that I had to make a very, very tough decision. We made it. I guess it was the right decision, because after that decision was made, this team took off. Yeah,
things did get worse, but like you said, Coach, they got much better. You broke a 4-game losing streak, defeating West Texas A&M at home by 15. And then you would go on the road to Texas A&M Commerce on January 26th. That was an important game because the Texans were 0-4 away from Wisdom Gym heading into that ball game. How important was it for you to get that first road win?
Our team had to go get that first road win if we were going to, you know, at that time, are we going to contend to go to the conference tournament? And I thought that they started responding well. Our practices leading up to that game were improving. We were improving on our work ethic. Everything about what we were doing that week was totally a different type of team. And you could see it in our players' eyes that they were really buying into what we were doing, and they were improving. And they showed that when they went to Commerce.
Now, those 2 games started a season-high 6-game winning streak. The final game in that streak might have been the most exciting game of the season. It was the only overtime game Tarleton played, a 75-70 win in Abilene. I hate to, you know, focus on a player so much because it's a team game, Coach, but Chuck Guy and Eric Lawton, the 2 former roommates from Arkansas Little Rock, they really put on a show that night.
Yeah, I mean, both had great games over there, Casey, and I think that's when we, you know, that's a game that really propelled us to know that what we could do, because they were very, very talented.
You finished the season winning 9 of your past 12 12 regular season games, I should say. You entered the conference tournament as the number 3 seed. You talked about that conference tournament earlier, and when you talk about how this team finished, the term peaking at the right time really comes to mind, doesn't it?
I thought we peaked. I thought our kids peaked at the right moment. Even, you know, y'all look down here and you know, we lost that 55-58 at West Texas, but we came back into the conference tournament. We were feeling good about the way we were playing. And we were feeling good about that we were improving. Anytime a team is really improving in February, then you know something's happening, and you're going in the right direction.
So you blow out Eastern New Mexico and West Texas A&M in the first 2 rounds of the conference tournament at Allen. It sets up, of course, that classic matchup with number 1 seed Midwestern State. You win that game 53-50. How special is that as a head coach to see your guys cutting down the net in Allen after all the adversity they faced this year?
It was pretty special since we played in that game 4 years in a row. I'll tell you. I mean, I didn't say much to Chris, and I didn't say much to, you know, my other coaches, and I didn't say much to my team. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I've been in this championship game 4 straight years in a row, and it's about time we took one of these home with us, and we hadn't taken one home since 2004. And then somebody said, well, no, Coach, you've actually played in that game 5 times out of the last 7 years. I'm thinking, wow, we've been in the championship 5 times out of the last 7 years? Yes, and it's about time you won a game. So,
well, a couple of the times you lost in that tournament, wow. you went on to make the Elite Eight. So
that's true, but you want to win that championship in that conference tournament. So that was a big win for us.
That was the second Lone Star Conference Tournament championship in school history. I want to talk for a minute about Chuck Guy, Coach. He transfers in from Arkansas Little Rock, immediately becomes a fan favorite. Did it seem like he really started to peak when you moved him from the shooting guard to the point guard position?
Well, you know, we started him at the point guard this year, Casey, and then we moved him to the 2 guard because I just thought it was a lot on his hands to try to learn everything. And then, you know, that was another one of our strategic moves later in the year. We moved him back to the position that we felt like, you know, that he can help us the most. We wanted the ball in his hands, put it that way. And I thought from that point on, you know, I thought Chuck, the first 10 games, was trying to feel himself through what we were doing. If you look at his stats through the first 10 games, he's
probably 5 points a game.
He's learning the system, and all of a sudden, when we put him back at that position, that was that was another strategic move that we tried to make at the right time. I guess it was the right call. And he just blossomed. He just went off on it.
He finishes the season averaging almost 16 points per game. That's 5th in the conference. He's the MVP of the conference tournament.
Yes.
He's a 2nd-team All-Lone Star Conference selection. And just yesterday, Coach
he's first team.
First team. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm thinking about the All South Central Region NABC Award yesterday.
Yes, right.
He gets named to the 2nd team, and that might be the biggest accomplishment of them all. Because that's the coaches voting on that.
That's the NABC NCAA All Regional team, and he's you know, he's one of the only juniors on that team that made that team, and that puts him in position for next year. That if he can have the year that we want him to have, he has a chance to be an All-American, and that's you know, I think we haven't had an All-American since Timmy Burnett and Danny Jones and that bunch, and so he's into that caliber player right now where he's going to have a chance to have a year like that, and he's brought a lot of notoriety to our team. He's brought a lot of excitement to our team, and I think he's going to attract a lot of good recruits to our team.
That's our season wrap-up here on Lunch with Lonn as the Tarleton Texans finish the year with 20 wins and 10 losses. Coach Reisman's 22nd winning season and 14th 20-plus win season in 25 years as the leader of this program. Did you ever imagine when you came to Tarleton in 1988, I believe it was, that you'd have this type of success?
Well, I didn't think I'd be here 25 years later, to be honest with you. I mean, coaches don't stay that long anywhere anymore. No. 25 years. I guess they couldn't get rid of me for some reason. I don't know, but you know, 25 years in the same place. It's been you know, it's been a tremendous quarter of a century, I guess is what you call it, Casey. And we've had a lot of success, and we've won a lot of ball games. We've had a lot of you know, a lot of great players and a lot of great coaches helped me through the years, and you know, it's been Stephenville, Texas has been home. It's been a special place for us for me to raise my family, and it's been home to us. It always will be home to us now, and it's just a special place.
Speaking of those great assistant coaches, when we return in 1 minute, Associate Head Coach Chris Reisman will join the broadcast for our Texan Coaching Spotlight when Lunch with Lonn continues right after this. Welcome back to Lunch with Lonn. I'm your host, Casey Hogan, alongside the 10th year Associate Head Coach of the Tarleton Texans, Chris Reisman, for our Texan Coaching Spotlight. Coach Chris, good to see you. I hope you've got a chance to relax since the season ended, but I doubt that.
I've had a little bit of time to relax. You know, it's a little weird because, like you and I were talking about, this time of year I'm usually breaking down film, and I've had an opportunity to listen to a few of the radio shows while I've been doing that, taking a little break. My 2 favorite ones are probably when you had Jakob Damstra and Michael Hards on. I just really enjoyed listening to those 2 young guys. They're both bright, positive people, and just have been a great ambassadors for our program.
Will you speak any Dutch today for us?
I will not speak any Dutch. I won't even attempt to speak any Spanish. I'm just I'm here at your will, call, and whatever you need me to do.
I appreciate that. And one of the things we always talk about is the nicknames. Try to get a nickname for each player. Did you know that you're the first coach to get a nickname?
I had no idea.
And I can give Coach Reisman the credit of this. You are the surgeon.
The surgeon. Okay.
Because Coach Reisman
I have heard
says
him use that term a couple times. I didn't know it stuck, but
yeah. So you are the surgeon.
Had to have one. It wouldn't be a bad one.
Yeah, it's a good one. And Coach says you're the surgeon because when you dissect the team preparing for a game, you kind of use a scalpel to dissect the team and put the Texans in a good position to win.
Well, you know, the true story behind that is he always wanted me to be a doctor, and I had to make a meeting to tell him one day, I'm not passionate about going to medical school. I want to stay right here, and so I guess he's living that surgical dream.
I wonder why he wanted you to be a doctor. Maybe for some security in his latter years, but
probably so he could retire a little bit quicker. I don't know.
All right, Coach, let's get serious here. Coach and I reviewed the season in our last segment. I want to talk to you a bit about recruiting, Chris, the offseason, and where you go from here. Before we do that, let's talk about the lone senior on the roster, Brian Word, the 6'4" guard out of Baltimore, Maryland. When you look at his record, as a part of this program. It's pretty unbelievable. How big of a loss is that going to be for your team?
It's a tough loss because, Brian Word, the one thing that was different for him this year is his junior year, he had 6 seniors to look to. And this year he was the lone senior. There was a lot put on his shoulders. Had never really been put in that leadership role until this year happened. And so it was a big adjustment for him. I think Brian put a lot of pressure on himself throughout the year. And I think that's at times where you saw him having some really great games and some games where he really deferred. But make no doubt about it, Brian was kind of our vocal leader in the preseason going into it, and really kind of kept this group together early during a lot of that adversity.
Now, looking at the holes you need to fill in recruiting, obviously you got to find someone to fill Brian's shoes at the swing position. What are some other areas that you feel like you need to go out and recruit to get deeper?
I think we definitely have to be more consistent with our inside scoring next year. I think there were some games this year when we got that package inside, we were a tough team to beat, but we definitely need some more consistency with some inside scoring, whether that's the 4 or the 5 position, as you mentioned, a big wing. And then the way with the new recruiting rules, it's so much tougher to get kids eligible at junior college. We're probably looking this time maybe 1 or 2 more high school kids coming in.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the recruiting process because the average fan listening probably doesn't know how that works. When can you recruit Division I transfers, junior college kids, and then, of course, 4-year high school players? Talk to us about how that works.
Well, the D2 level is a tricky level. High school kids and junior college kids you can recruit all year. The bad thing is a lot of times D2 is a dirty word because they all want to go Division I, obviously. And so it's only at the end of the year when they really start listening to you a lot of times. And sometimes with a junior college kid that may be based on academically they're not in position to graduate. They can still be a good student, but maybe things just aren't working out in a particular area, maybe math or maybe it's an English course. And so once it gets down to that point to where it's time to start taking visits and they don't have a whole lot of things lined up, they'll start to listen to you. High school kids are the same way. They're a little bit more eager to talk to you throughout the entire season. But at the same time, they're sometimes waiting for that offer from a Division I school. Everybody thinks they're going to go to Texas or A&M or one of those Big 12 programs. And so you got to be patient at this level. And the Division I transfers, you really got to, obviously that's a little bit more touchy because you got to wait a lot of times till the program's done with their season and they figure out what they're going to do, who they're going to release, and then you have to ask for releases and see if they're going to be interested in going and playing right away at the D2 level. That's the only good thing that Division II has is when a Division I player leaves their program, the only way they can play right away a majority of the time is to go to a Division II school. And so a lot of times you got a kid that has 1 year. In Chuck's case, he had 2 years, but Chuck wanted to get back closer to home. He was familiar with our program. He wanted to win, and he wanted to be a big key and a big component. And that's what we sold, and it worked out well for us.
And let's talk about Chuck for a minute. As a coaching staff, how good of a feeling is that knowing that really the quarterback of your team, your point guard, is going to be back next year with the success he had this season?
Well, I'm super excited, and Chuck could have had even a much better year, but here's the thing about Chuck. It takes a while to just figure out how to use him. I mean, for the first 2 months of the season, we had players dropping passes that were just right on point because they had never seen a guy that could pass like Chuck could. I mean, Damian Clemens and John Cathy, I can't tell you how many times they just dropped the ball in the basket because they weren't ready. And even as coaches, we had to learn how to use Chuck. We were a team that had ran a secondary break for a number of years, and it came to find out that we had to get the ball back to Chuck quicker. Sometimes we're shooting the ball in our secondary, Chuck gives it up and never gets it back. And so we scrapped secondary, went to our primary offense where he was going to get the ball. And I think that was another big strategic move is we were learning how to use Chuck, and players were learning how to play with Chuck. And once they did, you saw the type of impact he can have.
Now, for Chuck and the players on this roster that will return, how much of an advantage is it for them in this program to have someone like Rod Cole to work with, strength and conditioning this offseason?
It's a huge advantage. I mean, we talk about us bringing probably 85 to 90% of our scoring and rebounding back, and they understand now why the preseason and offseason is so important. Coach Cole, for the longest time that I've been here, he's the best strength coach I've ever seen. I really tell recruits he's the #1 strength training coach in the country at this level, and I truly believe it. And so they're only going to get better, and him and I have talked just in the past week where we're going to have individual meetings set up next week about where we want each of these guys going into the summer and coming into next fall.
Coach, running short on time. Appreciate your time all season long talking with us in the pregame show and for all you do for this program.
Thanks, Casey. I really appreciate it.
That's the associate head coach of the Tarleton Texans, Chris Reisman, for this week's Texan Coaching Spotlight. We'll take our final break, and when Coach and I return, we'll wrap up this final edition of Lunch with Lonn right here on the Tarleton Athletic KSTV Radio Network. Welcome back to Lunch with Lonn, live from the lobby of Brunner Dodge. And as we do each week, we want to thank our entire live audience here at Brunner Dodge. Coach, we just had fantastic audiences all season long. And you think about the Texan Club and the support we get from this community, you wouldn't be where you are as an athletic director, as a head coach without these folks.
Oh, Casey, they have, our Texan Club is probably I get so many compliments on how are you guys doing what you're doing. I mean, our Texan Club is as good as any Division I mid-major there is in the country. I mean, we have a support system here, and we have dedicated people in the Texan Club that do so much for our department. Wouldn't be anywhere near what it is today without you know the people that have led us through these last 20 years through the NCAA Division II.
So thanks to the Texan Club, and thanks to our live audience here at Bruner Dodge. And as we do each week, we're going to bring out the dice. Susan Burton, Associate Athletic Director, and Terry Hardcastle should have the dice. They've got it. And Coach, tell us the rules with the dice.
No skidding the dice. Greg Bruner says you cannot skid it. You have to, it has to roll.
It has to roll. Has to roll. And our first winner today, a great supporter of Tarleton Athletics, Gerald Harmon. Gerald?
Oh, yes.
Come on up, Gerald. And
see Gerald at a lot of games.
No doubt about it.
And he critiques me on Sunday morning at church.
Oh, my
I have
goodness.
to watch it.
You get critiqued on
your
your
coach? I go in there. He tells me.
All right, Gerald's going to take the dice from Terry Hardcastle.
So
he'll roll the dice.
What
do we got?
Car wash.
A car wash, courtesy of Bruner Motors.
A car wash.
All right. We haven't had a car wash or an oil change in a long time.
Wow.
I thought Greg had that dice rigged, but obviously it's not. All right, our second winner, another great supporter of Tarleton Athletics, Jerry Thornton.
Jerry,
hey.
Jerry Thornton. There you go, Jerry.
I think Jerry's rolled the dice once this season.
Come on,
so
Jerry's
practice.
Jerry's loyal. He comes.
There we go.
Oh, T-shirt.
Oh, and a T-shirt for Jerry. So thanks to Jerry and Gerald and our entire live audience here at Bruner Dodge. I want to thank Susan Burton and Terry Hardcastle all season long. A couple of the real unsung heroes here helping us get the show ready. So thank you, Susan, who's sitting back there in the corner and not looking at me. Hey, Susan. And thanks to Terry Hardcastle for all they do this season. Tarleton Athletic announcements, a lot to talk about. The Texan tennis team, 7-7 on the season. Coach Drake's team returns to action tomorrow morning against Southern Nazarene. That's an 11 a.m. start from the Tarleton Tennis Complex. So make sure you get out there to the tennis complex tomorrow morning and support the Texans and Coach Drake. The Tarleton Texans softball team, 15-12 on the season. They've won 4 out of 5. They'll make the short trip to Abilene Christian University this weekend. Game 1 today. It's a 6 p.m. first pitch and then a doubleheader tomorrow starting at 1 p.m. The Tarleton Texan baseball team left for Canyon yesterday, so they're playing West Texas A&M. First pitch today, it's a doubleheader at 2 p.m. and then a doubleheader tomorrow to finish the series. That's a 1 p.m. first pitch from Canyon. The Tarleton Texan and Texan track and field teams are in McMurray, and Abilene, I should say, for the McMurray meet today and tomorrow. The field events are today, followed by the distance events tomorrow, so best of luck to Coach Ponder's squads as they're out in Abilene. And of course the Texan golf team finished second last weekend in the Augustana Spring Fling. That was out at the Classic Golf Club in Palm Desert, California. Rough life that Coach Doyle leads.
I've tried to trade positions with Coach Doyle for the last 3 or 4 years. He just refuses to let me have the women's golf program.
We were in Denver, he was in California. Neither one of those trips too bad, but Palm Desert, I think there's more golf courses there than any place in the world.
I guarantee you.
The Texans have another couple weeks off in preparation for the 2013 Doc House Ride Invitational, which Tarleton will host at the Harbor Lakes Golf Club on April 8th through 9th in Granbury. And remember to stay up to date on Tarleton athletics and get up-to-the-minute results. Visit tarletonsports.com. I want to thank everyone that's made this show and this season possible. A lot of folks to thank. We want to thank Cotton Patch Cafe for providing the food here for Lunch with Lonn all season long. We want to thank the entire KSTV crew for all their hard work in making these broadcasts possible. We started in the fall with the Coach Kerry Fowler radio show, then we had football broadcast and went right into basketball. I want to thank Boots Elliott, Brad Heitman, Stephanie Day, Lorena Rodriguez, Aaron McAvoy, Luis Perez, who ran the board for us on most of these broadcasts. And last but not least, to my left, our engineer, Mr. Justin McClure. So give the KSTV crew a hand. We appreciate their partnership and for being the voice of Tarleton Athletics. Coach, a couple folks we have to thank. They don't get the credit that they deserve. That's Assistant Athletic Director Troy Jones and Red Jones. They come out here and set up every week for the show. And of course, Troy and Red, they're really instrumental on what you do on the basketball court, getting the facility ready.
Well, we thank Nathan and Damien coming out here and getting the camera set up all the time. But I want to thank Greg Bruner and Dwayne Bruner. They've sponsored this show for many years now, and I can't, they're just a part of the Tarleton athletic family, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate both of them. You go see them every year, and do you want to do this again? And they're always so enthused and excited about Tarleton athletics, and big part of this community and a big part of the Tarleton family, and I appreciate Greg and Dwayne very, very much.
And Greg wanted me to ask a question. He's the sponsor of the show, so he can feed the broadcaster. That's the privilege you get as the sponsor of the show, and he wants to know, Will there be a third annual Battle for the Brunner Cup in Waco against Baylor next season?
There's supposed to be, but he has to be involved in this decision right now.
Great.
We're hoping for that. I'll tell you what I told Greg before. I don't think people know this, but and I could be wrong. But out of NCAA Division I and NCAA Division II, there's only 2 schools in the state of Texas that played in the NCAA tournament this year: Tarleton and St. Mary's. There was 21 NCAA Division schools in Texas, and not one of them made the NCAA tournament. In Division II, Tarleton State and St. Mary's out of San Antonio made the NCAA
So what
tournament.
are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say hey, there we go.
Well, stay tuned. Look at TarletonSports.com. We'll see if there is a Battle for the Brunner Cup. Coach, I know you've got some other.
Well, I just want to thank you, Casey. It's our first year in a long time that we've worked together, and you've done a tremendous job, very professional job. I think people have enjoyed listening to you this year, and I hope we have more years ahead of us. And I appreciate I really appreciate your professionalism and how much time you take to put into these shows. And I think I've had a lot of great comments, and I think people have enjoyed following you this year.
Coach, I appreciate that, and it's good to be back. I can say that. And one last thank you. We talked about Troy Jones. There's Troy in the back. It's his birthday today.
Oh, it is.
I'm not going to say how old he is.
He never tells me those things.
He doesn't. So happy birthday to
never tells me those
Assistant Athletic Director Troy Jones. We sat in a meeting with him for an hour this morning. He didn't tell us it was his birthday. Coach, last but not least, thanks to you for your time this season, and best of luck in the offseason, getting those pieces to get back to the Elite Eight. I know that's where you want to be.
Well, Casey, it comes around pretty fast. It seems like, October 15th will pop up on us for long. So, we're looking forward to that, and I got to get one more shot in here. Springtime is here, and it's time for New York Yankee baseball again.
Oh, my goodness.
And, they got a great ball club. So
they got a team up there? Coach, thanks. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Casey.
That's going to do it for this 12th and final edition of Lunch with Lonn. For the 25th year head coach of the Tarleton Texans, Lonn Reisman, I'm Casey Hogan saying so long from Brunner Dodge in Stephenville. For the final time this season, thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time, go Texas.